All right, Lee Robinson here at American Sentinel K9 with my friend David Ishee from Midgard Mastiffs. And figured we would just go ahead and talk about bandogs, the bandog industry as a whole for just a bit. And his bandog program as well as my bandog program and some of the differences. I get a lot of calls from people that are asking me, hey Lee, what's the difference between your program and their program? And honestly, that's a question that I really don't even like to get into. I think the best person to ask about their program is the breeder. And if you don't trust them to give you the honest answer, then find another breeder. You need to stick with somebody you trust. Go ahead, David, introduce yourself.
David Ishee, run Midgard Mastiffs. Focus of my program is about making a functional working Mastiff. Still technically a bandog, but heavier on the Mastiff end. So the bulldog blood and things like that that's used in mine is just to clean up the Mastiff for the most part.
Yeah. When he says technically a bandog, let's go ahead and define what a bandog is. A bandog is a dog that's basically banded, which means tied or restrained, tethered, like a band-aid or a bandage or a rubber band. It's something that's held back, to hold it back. And then the dog is released when it's time to catch its quarry, whether it be man or beast. You know, a protection dog would be restrained when it's not wanting to engage its target. And a hog catch dog is going to be restrained when you don't want it to catch the hog. And there are different types of bandogs. Even in protection industry, you have your patrol type dogs, you have your sentry dogs, you have your personal protection dogs, you have your estate guardians. There's different types of protection work, and a lot of people want to lump all protection dogs in the same mindset. You have police canines, military canines, which are more apprehension oriented. And David's dogs, you know, being a Mastiff type dog, they're going to be as powerful as anything that you can get when it comes to brute strength and mass. And so they're, in my opinion, he may disagree, but I think his dogs are great for that century mindset where they don't have to do a lot of leg work, a lot of all-day hiking, but they're going to be the heavy hitter that has to stop somebody in 5 feet.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah, that's more how I think. Like.
That's his dog over there. We were doing his second session today.
Yeah, he's frustrated. He wants to come over here. Yeah, that's more how I think of him, as like home defense. You know, I had somebody one time ask me, you know, could you breed a slightly different type of Midgard Mastiff that was like smaller and more.
He'll be better over here, Brandon.
Well, I just don't want him to.
I'll move over to the right.
Okay. I don't know if I got enough leash to contain him.
I'll tell you what, we'll just keep on rolling, and I'll cut the camera here for a minute, but you don't cut it. I'll do it. I'll splice it, and we'll just slide over there. So go ahead and tell us about your dog here, David.
Well, this is Vulcan. He's a grandson of Osiris through Crixus. He's mostly in the house. He's pretty heavily socialized. You know, we have a dog door, so I try to keep him a little more on the social side. But you know, I don't want him to be entirely socialized, so we're doing a little bit of bite work. The sort of rule of thumb I usually go with is like 10 to 1. So one session of protection training and then 10 sessions of socialization.
Right.
That way the dog's kind of like, most people are okay, some people need to be bitten.
Yep. In fact, I've oftentimes thought as a trainer, when you're dealing with a dog that's a Mastiff type mindset, you know, a lot of people seem to struggle with training it. It kind of puzzles me a little bit because it seems to just be something I guess I get, and I'm certainly not a master trainer. I would never consider myself to be a master trainer. If a person wants to go compete, go train with somebody other than me that has a lot of experience with that. But when it comes to stimulating a Mastiff, I've always found it to be pretty easy, and I've seen other decoys that really struggle with that. So it's just, they are a different mindset. They're a softer minded dog when it comes to their handler, and so, you know, my dogs tend to be, because of the Mastiff influence, they tend to be softer. They're to the family and the handler, so if I overcorrect them, it can shut them down a little bit, and then his have even more Mastiff than mine. So if his dog's been socialized a lot, that can actually be difficult when you're first teaching the dog to engage in protection work, because that dog may have met 50 people, it's always been told no, it's always been told to be nice, and then out here it's going to learn to express itself in a protective mindset. And
in this,
Mastiffs are good at that. when you have a good Mastiff. They're really good at that.
And in this case, soft doesn't mean meek. It means like the opposite of hard-headed, kind of, towards the handler. So when you give a correction to a dog, a really hard dog, you may have to give a really hard correction for that dog to understand that he's being reprimanded, right? A lot of discipline. But a softer dog, a little bit of discipline goes a long way.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with the dog's ability to sustain combat.
Right.
We're talking about responding to the owner, the leader of the group.
Right, and so, and I think the reason Mastiffs tend to be that way is because it was probably necessary.
Absolutely. And in fact, I was thinking about that earlier, and so I'm glad you bring it up. Go ahead, elaborate.
Well, just because with a dog that physically powerful, you can't depend on being able to physically control the dog. You have to be able to mentally control the dog. Because some of these Mastiffs are so, like Achilles, I remember specifically, so strong that it's like, it's very difficult to guarantee that I can physically control this dog at any point.
Yeah, and he's talking about even from the handler side.
Yeah.
He's not talking about the opponent, the bad guy side.
Right.
Like a 50-pound dog that's super intense, super athletic, strong for its weight, lean and in shape, is really difficult to control when you're the one being bit. But it's easy to control when you're the one holding the leash because it's only a 50-pound object. You can pick him up and you got him. But when he's biting you, if it's a very ferocious and determined dog in combat, the person that's getting bit, a good 50-pound dog is a very capable dog. However, they're not going to stop somebody in 5 feet. But a bigger dog like this, or like Achilles, it gets to a point that one of the reasons why my program focuses on smaller dogs is because, one, there's two real reasons. Well, you could even say three, but because we both live in Mississippi, but he's using his dogs mostly as a home protection, family protection dog. And I like a dog that's capable of doing that, but I also like a dog that when I go, and I'm overweight, so it's not like I'm some runner nowadays, but when I was younger, I was pretty athletic, and I did cycling, I did kayaking, I would go hiking, and I could still go hike today, and I plan on getting back in shape one of those days, but you know how that goes. And so I like a dog that's able to work out in the heat for a long time, go hog hunting, it's still very agile. But the other thing is my wife and my daughter and my son, who's going to get bigger later on in life, of course, but my wife just can't handle a dog this size. She doesn't, even from the leash end, she's not physically able to. So, I like the dogs in the 75 to 115 pound range. 70 pound minimal size female would be okay with me. And then, a really big female would be about 90, 95 pounds for me. I've got a couple females that are bigger than that. And that's good because I've got some females that are small, on the small side. And then on the males, I like my minimal male size. Even though an 80-pound dog is certainly capable, I want my males bigger than that because the average of the genders, the females tend to be smaller than the males. So if the smallest size that I want is like a 70-pound female, I want my males to be, generally speaking, 90 pounds, maybe 100 pounds. If they're bigger than 100, you're getting into a little bit larger than what I personally want for my goals. But for the home protection type dog, if you have a good Mastiff, it's a very, very capable dog. And I've been telling David for a long time I was going to say this, but his dog Osiris is without question the best band dog I've ever worked that did not come from my program. And that dog was just as good as anything I've had. So that dog is phenomenal. I really like Osiris.
Yeah, and he was like 140 pounds.
Yeah, that dog can run all day. To me, it looks like you may have to be careful about heat just because he's big, but he certainly is athletic enough to do it if the weather's not super hot.
Yeah, he's got more Neo in him than Osiris does, so he's not quite as lean as Osiris, which I could condition him, and get him there. But Osiris stays there even without conditioning. So.
Yeah, Osiris is phenomenal. In fact, I even tried to breed Osiris once, but the female that I bred to him, she didn't take, and it's probably her fault because she was a tough breeder.
Yeah, but I've had people ask me, can I make a smaller version of the Midgard Mastiff? Something that was had a little more pit bull blood, because they wanted something they could be like put in a car with them, they could work out of a window and things like that. I was like, why? Just go to Lee. Just get one of his dogs. It's all right.
Yeah, and people need to be honest about what they're going to do.
Yeah.
And what they want. You know, a lot of people think that they want
Yeah.
a dog like I got some super intense dogs out here. David, I'm sure would tell you, Scratch, Bumper, those dogs are through the roof. And if you have a dog that's this size with that intensity, and a lot of people say they want that,
high maintenance.
when you get it, you're going to find out you probably don't want it, because if that dog ever decides to run the house, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Watch?
Yeah, getting dogs like that, you end up in a situation where you either keep them contained all the time and they never get loose because you're worried what'll happen if they get loose. You know, they could encounter a mailman or something like that.
Yeah, it's a big dog. You can't, if you had a dog that size with that intensity, it's just going to be too much.
Yeah.
You need a permit.
Yeah, exactly.
Like buying a lion.
Yeah, and it'd be a constant danger. So for the most part, they end up just locked away. You know, so you gotta have a balance somewhere where you can live with the dog without it being super high maintenance.
Yeah. As far as the band dog industry as a whole, I would like to see more consistency. There's a lot of variation. You know, a lot of people argue about what is a band dog. A lot of people think it's just any type of Mastiff Bulldog cross.
Or people have got it in their head it's a specific recipe. Like, and a lot of this comes from Lucero popularity in the 80s, which is where a lot of people
80s,
first
90s.
encountered the idea.
Yeah, it was real popular in the 90s.
Or 90s, yeah. So a lot of people first encountered the idea through there. So they think that, like, to get a band dog, you have to cross a Neo with a pit bull.
Yeah.
And that's how you make a band dog.
And
But band dog is a much older word.
yeah, and a lot of people don't even know what a pit bull was. Joe Lucero really didn't even use true pit bulls. You know, he used these Amstaff type dogs and Neapolitan blood, and not really breeding dogs anymore. You know, he kind of got out of it. But when he got a good one, it was a good dog. They were also bigger than what I like, sloppier than what I like. His favorite one was my favorite one that he had was a dog named Jaws, and he didn't produce Jaws. So,
But, you know, the I guess my main point is, you know,
the recipe. People thought it was the recipe.
People thought it was a recipe.
The Neo Pit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know, the idea of a band dog goes all the way back to the Middle Ages. You know, the word band dog goes back to the Middle Ages. It's actually in Shakespeare. There's a reference to band dogs in Shakespeare.
Yeah. And I wonder if we'd even be using that name today if Swinford didn't revive the name back in the 1960s.
Yeah.
Because John Swinford, of course, revived the name band dog, and that was how I personally got exposed to band dogs. Believe it or not, the University of Illinois had the book, The World of Fighting Dogs, in their library. They have a huge library at the University of Illinois, and the Department of Agriculture, they even had their own library at the U of I. And one day I was in there and I was thumbing through Carl Simincic's book, The World of Fighting Dogs, and it's not a dog fighting book like people think it is. It's really about different breeds of dogs that have been used in dog fighting.
Yeah.
So people thought, you know, it's a fighting dog book, and not really. There's a lot of breeds out there that
It's more of a history book.
it's more of a history book. And in that book, I came across John Swinford's Swinford band dog, and that I thought was pretty darn cool. And I don't know if that influenced Joe Lucero, but I suspect it did.
Yeah, there's not a lot of mention of it in like the 30s or 40s.
When it comes to comparing my program to David's program, I kind of think of John Swinford's program as right in the middle. I don't know, I've never told you this.
Yeah.
The reason why I say that is John Swinford, he really was trying to improve the Mastiff, like you are, but he used a high percentage of game bred pit bull. He ran anywhere from 50% to 75% Mastiff, and about 50% to 25% pit bull blood for most of his breedings. He had a lot of Mastiff blood. You tend to have even more Mastiff than that, and I tend to have more pit bull than that. So John Swinford's kind of like right in the middle of us.
Yeah, and if I wasn't using the Great Dane, I probably would have to use more.
Yeah, that's true.
Because of the Mastiffs, you know, trying to get leanness and athleticism and stuff like that.
Cleanliness of body, efficiency of movement,
Yeah.
stamina,
Yeah, trying to get that
speed.
from like Neo blood is you're digging a dry well there.
Yeah, that's
but,
right.
But you know, so you have to use a lot of pit bull to try and get that physical ability. But the Great Dane kind of offsets that a
Yeah,
little
and
bit.
the Borbal, I've never used the Borbal, and you've never used the Borbal either. But if I was starting from scratch, if I wanted a clean Mastiff, the Borbal and the Great Dane would certainly be two breeds I would consider.
Yeah.
But
which that's another thing, you know, people talk about breed a lot. And the thing I always try to get people to focus on is focus on the dog.
that's right.
You know, because like I was looking on Facebook the other day, somebody was asking, you know, what's better, a bull mastiff or a borbal? And it's like it depends on the individual. A great bull mastiff is better than a terrible borbal. A great borbal is better than a terrible bull mastiff.
Or even average,
Yeah.
because there's a lot of average dogs out there.
Sure.
And
They'll
this
do
is
the majority.
the one question that I've always hated is what is the mix of your dogs?
Yeah.
And it's not because it's some secret recipe that I want to keep secret. It's because anybody that asks the question, how did you make your dog? And when they ask the question, how did you make their dog? They're interested in the breeds that I used.
Right.
They're not interested in the individuals that I used. And yet, you can have 5 pit bulls in front of you, and all 5 of them be different dogs.
Right.
And you could do the same thing with Mastiffs. You could have 5 Neapolitans in front of you, and all 5 of them are different. So, you know.
Yeah, it's like compare Eclipse to the average English Mastiff.
Eclipse was without a doubt the reason why my program is successful. And you might think, well, Lee, you use so much pit bull. Why would you put so much success in or credibility into Eclipse? Well, the reason why is because if I want to go find a great American Pit Bull Terrier, a game-bred dog, when I started 20 years ago, that was actually fairly accessible. Finding a good English Mastiff was near about impossible. That dog was awesome.
Yeah.
And I had Tosa Inu, which was nice. We had access to Achilles, which was nice. And Achilles helped our program for sure. So I was glad David got that dog. But Eclipse is definitely the reason why our program has been successful. Now, if I went to breed some other English Mastiff, which I've done before, it didn't work out so well. Yeah. Even though those dogs worked, they worked. They just didn't produce like she did.
Yeah.
And that goes back to Tobin Jackson's blood. Tobin Jackson, I don't know if you know who he is. He was an English Mastiff breeder that was known for, I guess this was probably in the, anyway, I'm just guessing on the years now, maybe anywhere from 1950 to 1990. I don't know how long he bred. I don't know if he bred up to 2000 or not, but Tobin Jackson ended up getting kicked out of the AKC because he crossbred English Mastiffs with other Mastiff breeds to try to save the health of the English Mastiff. And he ended up getting busted for that.
Which is so
and he
crazy.
had precedent, supposedly, as well.
Which is so crazy because
The English Mastiff after World War II was almost extinct.
Yeah.
And so they bred Saint Bernard and they bred Bull Mastiff
The way
and a bunch
it
of other
came
stuff.
out.
Yeah, and they bred a bunch of other large dogs, Mastiff type blood, into the handful of surviving English Mastiffs to save the breed in like the 50s.
Yeah.
So I mean, all the English Mastiffs in the 50s were
Pretty much gone.
yeah, and that's why they were all like sort of this hybrid population to begin with. So the idea of putting a little more outcross in them is not an insane thing to do, but he gets in trouble for it.
Yeah, he got banned from the AKC for a while, and some people love his blood and some people hate his blood. The people that love his blood because he saved the English Mastiff, and he was a massive breeder. I mean, very proliferative program. The name of his kennel was Deer Run Kennels. So you may have heard
that.
Okay, so Deer Run blood is Tobin Jackson's blood, and but if I wanted an English Mastiff today, I'd be looking for Deer Run big time. There's these purists, the diehard purists, they want to avoid it because they don't want the crossbred blood, but their dogs don't work like his.
Yeah, but in the same time, if you go back in the ancestry of any of the purebred blood, you're still going to run into Saint Bernard, Bull Mastiff, stuff like that. That's why sometimes there's piebald English Mastiffs, sometimes there's long-haired English Mastiffs.
Yeah.
But you know, it's the biggest thing is like it's not a recipe. Like you got to find greatness wherever greatness is and capture that.
Yeah. David, I asked him if he'd do this video because there's basically 2 programs. So I'm going to give a shout out to a person that I know of. I talked to him a little bit. We've never done business, but I respect him. And that is Trent at Rustic Bandogs. I think he's got a legit program, and I think David Ishee's got a legit program. And over the 30 years that I've been studying the bandogs and 20 years that I've been breeding bandogs, I'm disappointed in saying that there's almost no programs out there that I endorse anymore, because I want to see two things when I'm looking for a program. One of the things I want to see is consistent working dogs. The other thing that I want to see is consistent, the breeder needs to be a person of consistent principles. And David Ishee, I'm just endorsing his program because his character is phenomenal. And I'm going to tell you what, right off the bat, and I know you wanted to say thanks or something there because I could see the movements, but right off the bat, I'll tell you, first thing you need to look for in a breeder is their character.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that'll show you some dogs and they're not bred the way they say they are, and I've got documentation to prove that, but I don't want to blast anybody.
Yeah.
I'm disappointed about the dishonesty in the industry, and I think David deserves credit. If you're looking for a big working Mastiff type dog that's a bandog type dog for home protection work or sentry work, holler at him. He's got some really good Mastiff type dogs. Are they all going to meet my criteria? I think he'll probably tell you none of them do.
Yeah.
But same would be said. Exactly. But same would be said if we flipped.
Yeah.
So I don't look at his dogs and judge them on my criteria. I look at his dogs and judge them on his criteria, and I also judge him as a working Mastiff.
Right. Yeah. And that's why we've even though we've been working together, training and cooperating for what, 10, 12 years, something like that.
It's been at least 10 years.
Yeah. We've only crossed blood a couple of times.
It's probably been 12 years. I don't know. How
Oh yeah, it was 2009 or so when we first met up in Jackson.
So yeah, 12 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we've only crossed blood a couple of times because we have different goals. For me, my band dog's the American Sentinel, and I named it American Sentinel because I did not want to name the dog after me. I felt like I've seen some people that have named dogs after themselves, and what happens is their program never turns into
anything but them.
Yep. It's just, it stays on their yard. It never becomes a real program because nobody, if I want to breed his dogs and they're named after him, then my program will never be really successful because if you want one of his dogs, you're going to go to him. And I wanted to build a network. I wanted to build a breed. And for me to be able to do this, I know that it takes many, many years, many decades really, and I'm going to be getting older where it's going to be difficult for me to do, and maybe I don't want to keep 20, 30, 40 dogs anymore. So maybe right now I've got 27 plus all these, I got 20 puppies. I got 47 dogs on the yard, mouths to feed right now. Right. So, but you know, when I get older, I don't want to do that, and so maybe I'll have 2 or 3, and I want to call somebody up and buy one. One of my own
exactly right.
Own
That's
dogs.
Exactly what I want.
And so for me to do that, I wanted it to be a program that was named after what is the purpose of the dog, and that way anybody else that gets involved can be just as successful. And I named it American Sentinel K9 because American, obviously, because this is the origin of the breed. Sentinel because it's supposed to be a guardian. And then K9 because K9 implies working dog, and instead of just dog.
Right.
So that's why I chose that name. There was a reason. What was I going to say before I got into the name? Oh, my dogs are smaller, and my dogs. I like the pit bull a lot. It's my favorite purebred dog. The game-bred American Pit Bull Terrier that goes through gladiator-type programs. The performance-tested ones that goes back to the first pit bulls that were imported in this country. Those are my favorite purebred dogs, but they're too small and they lack the protective instinct. So I wanted to increase the size and increase the protective instinct. But
yeah, and for me it's more like maintain the size of the Mastiff, get rid of all the garbage and the waste and the lack of health and you know, honestly cowardice that runs through a lot of the Mastiff breeds, and just like take them back in time to where they were back when they were like actually working breed.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about the Mastiffs back in the 1800s or 1700s or whatever year it would be, these dogs were functional dogs that put food on the table or kept attackers out of the house.
Yeah. Yeah.
They protected the livestock. I don't really want a livestock guardian, but they protected the livestock, they protected the family. And that's what they should be capable of doing. But they were also about probably 90 to 125 pounds for the most part.
Yeah.
Maybe some big ones, but They certainly
But people were
want
smaller then too, so it balances out.
yeah, maybe. I don't know. Maybe.
I don't know. My whole thing, like, why go all the way up to 150?
Oh,
which
do you?
Well, I mean, 150 is like my biggest dogs. Like Achilles is 150, right? And like Osiris is 145 and stuff like that. But like, why go all the way up that high? You know, I've seen what, like in my martial arts days, I've seen what some really big guys can do. Like I've had people I was sparring with pick me up with their offhand, full extension, and lift me into the air. And I was probably like 160 pounds at the time.
I saw that one time when I was at a party. A guy reached out and grabbed somebody's arms were full extended. That was a girl that he picked up, but she was still, I don't know, 140 pounds.
Yeah.
And the fact that he could pick her up with his arms straight out was pretty darn impressive.
Yeah.
I heard about some test that they were doing by holding just an empty barbell out, which is only 45 pounds.
Yeah.
And this guy was holding a 140 pound one. Now it was kind of, he was a really big man.
Yeah.
He was obese, but he was strong as all get out. But
And that's my thing. There's some really strong guys out there.
there
like,
are.
You know, something like Malinois sized. You know.
Yeah, I mean, you could use a door, or I don't really believe people are going to throw dogs that are locked on. You can't throw a dog that's locked onto you, but you can use a door, and you can. If you can't get to the door, you can't use the door.
Yeah.
So you know, if you can get to a door, and then you can close the door on the dog's head, and the dog starts adjusting its grip because of the door, and eventually get to where you're able to close it. One of the reasons why I like a little smaller dog instead of the big Mastiff dog is even though the big Mastiff dogs are more powerful and have more weight, they also lose agility, they lose speed, they lose stamina, they lose heat tolerance. And so all of those things that I just mentioned help maintain intensity.
Yeah.
And by maintaining intensity, what's more imposing to me as a decoy depends on the environment that I'm in. If I am in a small scenario, like when I'm within his strike range, a dog like Achilles can be intimidating, right? When that dog can get you, if he gets on top of you, oh my goodness, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
If he ever gets on top of you, you're in real trouble. But if he's not on top of me, the one that's fast and agile is real trouble.
All right.
So, if I was, let's say, going to break into a fenced area,
Right.
and you had a Mastiff on one side or a super intense dog on the other side, I'm probably more likely to go in with the Mastiff. And that might
Depends on the Mastiff, but yeah.
Now Osiris, I have to give it to him. That sucker's fast, and he could get you. But the reason why I say that is because I feel like I could lure a Mastiff into getting into a position where I could trap his power. That's just my opinion.
Yeah.
And
with your experience, I could definitely see that.
Yeah, and this is not going to be something that's done by your average thief.
Right.
So, you know, as an experienced decoy, I could see where I could trap his power, and if I could trap his power, then I don't worry about it. But that's going to require me to, like, move in such a way where I could possibly pin him in. Now, these are extreme situations.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is you could talk about it all day long, and you come up with different balance points for exactly what scenario
and
you
that's
want.
something I battle for my own program, and probably he battles too.
Yeah.
And so we came to different conclusions, but we respect each other's opinions because I know why he does what he does, and he knows why I do what I do.
Yeah, for sure.
We don't have to agree. We just understand each other.
Yeah, and yeah, for sure. And like even, you know, situations like, you know, if you had, like when you go a little broader and you think about like pounds of food per like arbitrary unit of protection. so like the cost of protection.
Yeah, cost gain ratio.
Yeah, exactly. So you talk about like two dogs is always going to be significantly more dangerous than one.
Right.
So two dogs.
They get along.
Yeah. So a 140-pound dog versus two 70-pound dogs.
But 140-pound dog doesn't need as much as two 70-pound dogs.
Well, sure, but let's just say whatever the balance point is,
Sure.
150-pound dog, you know,
Sure.
whatever. Or, you know, trying to outmaneuver one dog where you can really focus all your attention is a lot easier than two.
Yeah, and I'll say with my program, you can't have two of my dogs together unless they're opposite gender.
Yeah.
If I have two females together, they're going to have combat. If I have two males together, they're going to be combative. My dogs have the mindset of a pit bull for the most part, except I've changed two things: more size and more protective instinct.
Right. Yeah. And
they
that
still have that
can
competitive.
happen with mine too.
But if you have a male and a female, it's not a problem.
Yeah, if you have a male and female, it's not a problem. But an experienced trainer can make them get along under some circumstances, but it's difficult and not reliable.
It is, and yeah, I could, if I put in a lot of obedience with my dogs, and then introduce two males with each other. Yeah, I can do that. Do I? No, because I've got too many. But I've done it before 20 years ago when I had, or 15 years ago when I had less dogs. And I had two intense males side by side, no problem. But I put in a ton of obedience, and I would never leave the room.
Yeah, I was gonna say, but if
Don't leave the room.
If you left them there, and or they were just loose together on your property, and it was like the neighbor's dog was habituating in heat.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean you're gonna come home and there's not been a problem.
Oh, big problem. Yep. Yeah, and I know people that have disagreed with me and they've tried it, and they may have been successful with that with their past experienced dogs, but when they got dogs from me and they tried it, it was fine and dandy until 3 years later. One day it was a bad situation.
And that's usually what I recommend too. It's just easier.
Yeah, it's easier.
Yeah. But but I guess my overall point is, the amount of investment for the amount of protection gained, like 150, 140 pound dogs, it's a lot of food.
Yeah, and something else, and I don't know if this, David has martial arts experience. He used to teach martial arts.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this influences our decision a little bit, but
I feel like it probably does. I have a lot of respect for the amount of damage a man can do.
yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
Too. But I'm also thinking about a tactical person, while you're thinking more about brute force. Probably.
Well, some of it, but some of it's also like, even with like a big dog, like if you're fighting two people or you're fighting somebody with a weapon or experience, like the amount of damage a man can do, you gotta have a certain amount of mass to absorb a ton of damage.
Right. Now, that's on that note, and I hope you don't mind me saying, for that reason, I don't use Great Dane, because even though they're a big dog, they're not a durable dog.
Right.
I've seen Great Danes get hurt with things that wouldn't hurt a pit bull half its size.
Yeah.
And I just think that they're too fragile. So I like that hardy dog by just the physique is hardy, but I don't necessarily get hardiness by size.
Yeah.
But a big dog
for
is
sure.
definitely, a dog like that's going to definitely be
Yeah,
hardy.
like
I mean,
him in particular, he would absorb a lot of
he would
damage.
absorb a lot of punishment.
But I've had dogs that were more Great Dane. He's probably like, without
Yeah, I
thinking,
know.
he's probably 20% or less.
Right.
But if you start approaching 50%, that's a lot of Great Dane, and you start definitely losing durability.
Yeah. And I like durability, but I also like the speed and intensity. So
It's a very hard balance point.
it is a hard balance.
Because you can't just program what you want. You're having to like select. So you get what you get. You can pick what you start with, and you get what you get, and you pick the best of that and the closest to your goal. But you'll never like find that exact perfect point.
Right.
You just stick a pin in the idea in your head is sitting in front of you,
Right.
or at least you can get damn close to it.
You can get really close, but I've never seen the perfect dog, in my opinion. I know people that have given me a hard time that said, "Well, Lee, you're always trying to change something in a dog." Arnold Schwarzenegger always tried to change something in himself, and that's why he was a 7-time Olympic champion or whatever. He would look in the mirror and find what can be improved. If you can jump 10 feet, hey, jump 11, jump 12, jump 13. You always got to try to move it to the next ultimate level. And when it comes to durability, when I said tactics, in my opinion, can beat durability, if you have two people that are not tactical, then brute force wins.
Yeah.
But if they're tactical, I've seen 55, 65, 75 pound dogs control a 300 pound hog.
Yeah.
And even
Yeah,
though
yeah,
the hog's more brute force, the tactic of evasiveness and strategy and speed and stamina.
Yeah, and a man's much smarter than a pig.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Well, most of them anyway. There are some smart pigs and some dumb
And that's
people.
why we're the superior being on the planet. I mean, we can kill a whale.
Yeah.
Human beings can kill a whale. We can kill. If you tell me, Lee, we're going to fight a grizzly bear tomorrow, and winner gets $1 million, of course, or a bear gets all the berries and fish that he wants.
Yeah.
I know I'm going to win because I'm going to go with a gun.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's what makes human beings the strongest being on the planet is our brain.
Yeah.
David, say whatever you want to say.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I mean, that's one of the things. Like, you show up with a baseball bat or something, you get down into the 30, 40 pound dog
Oh yeah,
range.
I wouldn't want. I don't know. I've seen people make videos of piglets or little tiny dogs do protection work, but even piglets. I saw the guy did protection work with a pig, and it was a piglet. And I saw a guy that did protection work with like lap dogs. And
Right.
to me, that's if
It's
you want to
just
do
a
it for
funny
fun,
thing, yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
But-
you got your min pin on the sleeve,
But I don't get it because honestly, you're possibly creating a liability that
Yeah,
has
so
no protective instincts.
You're teaching a behavior that's gonna cause you a problem and give you no benefit.
Yeah, no benefit because one kick, the dog is done.
Yeah.
Ribs are broke, dog's dead.
And
Yeah.
And I've seen that. Like even things like some of my dogs being around horses and stuff. I've heard of dogs being kicked by a horse getting injured and things like that. But it takes it doesn't matter. Like I don't think there's a significant difference in the bone density from one breed to another. Maybe some breeds like sight hounds or something have been selected for speed.
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with pain tolerance and muscle density, maybe, or tightness.
Yeah.
I don't know, but
But also just like the cross-sectional area is going to be the main thing.
yeah, that's right.
So you start.
That's why
getting-
Great Danes are not durable because they just don't have the bone mass.
Yeah, and that's also one of the reasons we have a slightly different structure. So your dog's a little smaller, but a little wider, and a little more.
Well, they're not really
But
wide.
not for him, but he's kind of bulky for my program.
I got you.
He's kind of bulky for my program. He's got a lot of neo. He's got a lot of lips. He's got some things about him I would change, which is why I'm breeding him to more leaner, cleaner females. But you think about a dog like Kronos or Osiris, or dogs like that. Taller, leaner.
Good balance.
Yeah. So with
Yeah, I
at different sizes, you got to sort of slide the structure a little bit.
Sure.
The shape. So because your dogs, some of them, their bones may be bigger, proportionate to the size of the dog.
Maybe a little bit.
Not
Not for
Not
him,
for
but
him, not for him. For some of
Osiris or
them, yeah.
Kronos, yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Because Osiris, he may be that wide in the shoulder, but that's just like muscle. So his actual shoulder joints are probably that far apart.
Yeah, I think a lot of durability comes with muscle mass.
Oh, of course.
And
it's absorbing.
not fine bone. Like you
Yeah,
could say
exactly.
a greyhound has a lot of muscle, but it's so fine bone it's not durable.
Yeah.
And I have unfortunately seen Great Danes sustain injury that
Oh yeah, for sure.
was not suitable. I mean,
And there's some variability in the Great Danes. There's some European lines of Dane that are pretty heavy bone.
anything else you want to add?
No, I mean I think it's interesting, but I think the biggest point is like you were talking about earlier. The main thing is as far as what people should look for in a band dog program is like you're saying the character of the breeder is the number one thing, because it's like anything, whether it's a car or whatever. If you're dealing with a shady person,
Who
you
knows
can't
what
trust
you're
the
gonna get?
results. Yeah.
Who knows what you're going to get, and who knows how they're going to treat you if you need help.
Exactly. And then at the same time, you got things like, the dog that you get, is a big investment. It's an expensive animal, and it's 10 years to 15 somewhere in there of something you're gonna have to do every day for years.
I saw someone said, and I think the person that made the comment thought it offended me, but it didn't offend me. It was just, I responded in a way where I thought, look at this from another perspective.
Right.
And when I said, look at this from another perspective, sometimes when you say that kind of thing, it makes a person defensive and afraid that they offended you. He did not offend me. But his comment was, dogs are getting so expensive now, I'm going to need a loan to buy one. Because my dogs go from $1,500 to $4,000 right now, and honestly, in the near future, that's liable to change to $2,000 to $5,000. Things are going well for our program, but that's because my investment here is tremendous. I've got a massive investment here. I told David, I spent, what was it, $2,900 on 3,320 pounds of food, and that's going to last me 2 months. I'm spending $1,500 a month now on dog food right now.
Yeah.
And then I've got a kennel I'm paying for and everything else, so it's really expensive. But my response was, think about this from a different perspective. Let's say you get a free 80-pound dog, or in your case, a free 120-pound, 130-pound dog, 140-pound dog. If it was free, you're still going to spend at least $100 a month to keep that dog alive over its life. You're going to buy dog food, vet care, kennels, leashes, equipment, supplies, training, maintenance. You're going to spend at least $100 a month.
Yeah.
And you multiply that by 10 years, that's $1,200 a year times 10. That's $12,000 for the life of the dog, if it's a 10-year-old dog. And that was for a free dog that you might not like, or maybe you like it, but it doesn't bring anything to the table.
Right.
My thoughts are, if you're going to spend $12,000 for a dog, it needs to bring something to the table.
Yeah, for sure.
So, protection or hog hunting or something like that.
Yeah, and you know, and that's something a lot of people don't understand is you know, you want to get some kind of value out of the dog that you're getting.
Yeah, and if you buy one of my cheaper dogs, a $1,500 dog, that's 10% of the cost.
Yeah.
Well, anything else to say before we cut it off?
No.
All right, well, thanks for watching. I hope y'all found this video entertaining. Y'all have a blessed day.